Midnight.
Midnight. What were we doing?
It's the Midnight Critic!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Midnight Review. Today we are reviewing the films, well, one of the films, Longlegs. We're going to go ahead and start it off. I'm just going to read a quick summary of the film before I pass it off to thoughts and things like that. This movie is about FBI agent Lee Harker. He's assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes an unexpected turn, revealing evidence of satanic worshippers and things of that nature. And then she discovers a personal connection between her and the serial killer. Just tries to stop him. That's essentially what the movie's about. Pretty good movie. I'm gonna open it up with before they did the what's it called? The aspect change.
Yeah.
How do we feel about that scene? Just kind of going into that.
Oh, dude, awesome. I think it was great. It kind of was a change both in like it's smaller. You're following Harker as which you might not pick up on at the beginning that it is her as a child, but you pick up it's she's a child, so it's like a smaller view, which is understandable. And not only that, but the time period is different. The 70s.
Yep.
So then once it goes to the full pan, we actually are in the late 90s, late mid 90s, I believe. And I think that's
Sounds
very
right.
interesting.
Sounds
Yeah.
right. Maybe
Yeah,
early 90s,
there
late
were-
80s.
I don't think it was definitely not late 80s because Bill Clinton was president.
Right.
Yeah. They do
Bill Clinton
things,
was president.
they do, for talking about dates so much, they do a very good job of making it feel set in the mid late 90s without having to say, oh, today's the mid late 90s, you know.
Yeah, today's October
that's
7th,
nice. That's nice.
1996.
Yeah,
And they do talk about actual dates. Go on, Thomas.
They really do. I will say that the aspect ratio difference, I didn't quite understand what the actual main, why it was happening or what the director's reason was for it. So I was trying to wrap my head around that, which I later on figured out. It was, I think the main character of the story is absolutely,
Lee Harker.
Lee Harper.
FBI agent,
Harker.
Special
Harker,
Agent
my
Harker.
bad. Lee
Oh, you're good.
Harker.
Yeah, her name is
Um,
Lee.
Harker.
But
Yeah.
when Lee Harker's, the one who's actually doing things and actually the person we're following, it's
Correct.
the full screen kind of aspect ratio.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's the kind of director's point of view who wants to show you a little bit extra, a little bit of extra details that you aren't going to get from her perspective, that's where it's that different aspect. Because we don't get that right off the bat of what's going on, the car driving up, her looking outside. Like she wouldn't have those experiences in the timeline yet with how the movie was set up.
Yes.
So it makes it to where it helps separate who we're really paying attention to. The president thing is kind of interesting too.
Mhm.
We did talk about Bill Clinton. There was a wall at one point that also had Ronald Reagan in it, and it was in one of the flashbacks.
Yeah, it was one of the people that were one of the murdered families.
Yep.
And
Really?
it was Ronald. Or actually, I think was it Reagan or Nixon?
It might have been Nixon. It was one
Yeah.
of the two.
I don't know my
Because I
presidents
think it
like
was
that.
one of the ones that happened in the '60s, which is
Yeah.
like another really good like way of showing, and it makes sense. It's Nixon. They have a cross. Obviously very like religious, conservative, right wing family. So of course they would fucking vote Nixon. Fucking love Nixon, just like people love Trump in this day and age. Like that. I just love that. I love when a movie does like
More
a
visual
smart
stuff.
move. Yeah, more
Yeah,
visual stuff.
I feel that.
Yeah. And one last thing about the like aspect ratio change. I
Yeah.
think also it could be having to do with hell and possibly also have to do with just having that smaller aspect ratio makes it claustrophobic,
Yes. Yeah.
And a lot of the scenes where it did that, it was like showing the snakes with red visual and everything.
Yeah.
That could be a representation of like hearing hell, like, and that's what we see Harker hear whenever they're near those like balls, and like the guy's
Yes.
like, this thing's calling my ex-wife's name. Maybe
Yeah.
that could mean that his wife's like screaming hell.
Yeah.
Like it's very cool to think about. Like it's very very
Yeah.
cool.
I have several theories on that. But before we move on through that, I'm not gonna try to bog this down and going necessarily chronologically because there are just certain things that I feel like are interesting to talk about. But one thing I I have a pet peeve. Phoenix doesn't like it when movies tell you things at the beginning of it. Right. And so there's this thing that started during COVID where because in the age of streaming, people don't want to sit down for a whole 4 hours and watch a movie. They would rather sit down for 4 hours and watch TV shows just on loop. Because they get the option to, walk away, pause, and do things like that. So during this time, during COVID especially, I noticed this. Movies were releasing, and halfway through the certain point of the movie, they would go black screen and throw up a part 1 or part 2, yada, 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 bullshit like that. I absolutely hate it. And I'll stand on this to the day I die. Awful. Especially if you're in a movie theater, do not break it up into parts for me. I don't give a fuck. I'm here for the whole thing. Why are we setting up for parts? And entitling it doesn't help it either. I don't care if it's part 3, Angels of the fucking Sun. Like, I don't care. This isn't a fucking book. This isn't a TV show. You made a movie. Let's keep it that way. There's no point in break. I'm not pausing this shit to go walk around like I'm fucking watching Longlegs. It's hour 41. I could understand it for maybe a movie like Snyder's Cut of Justice League where it's 4 hours long. I could maybe see the reasoning for putting it in that. But again, that released during the COVID era where everyone was stuck at home, and that was an expectation because they didn't want to watch movies. That was during this era where people were like, movies are dying, movies are just gonna fuck off, which is obviously not the case because Godzilla brought the box office back and it's just been on a boom. I mean, that's one thing I wanted to get off my chest.
Yeah.
The excessive thing about them telling you about noise and shit, I absolutely hate part 1s and part 2s. Bothers the shit out of me. And it also, for me, when I watch a movie, I like to get really in touch with the character, like kind of like latch on, put myself in there. Awfully, it just separates for me. Absolutely brings me out of the immersion of it. Yeah, I just hate it. Does anyone have any thoughts to share on that?
Yeah, you got something, Thomas?
I don't mind part 1, part 2, part 3 only because it helps sometimes explain it on later. So you can be like, oh, okay. So during part 1, this is what happens. Or during part 2, this happens. So if you have to go back and quickly review what parts kind of like mean what when you're like editing, that makes it easy. But to leave it in the movie, I think has a different meaning itself. So to leave it in the movie, they had like part 1, which was like, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was something notes.
I think it was
like,
the letters.
Yeah,
Is
the
what
letters,
it's called.
right?
Part 1
letters.
was the letters.
So, and it kind of gives you a teaser of what is going to be talked about, what is going to be shown, right? So it's not necessarily telling you what it is. It's kind of leaning you towards, hey, the big thing that you're supposed to be paying attention to this is the letters. Really pay attention to what's going on with the letters and figure out, what the main breakdown is. Why are these letters so important?
Yeah. No, yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, I'm kind of divided. I definitely agree with you, Corey, that like in this movie, I think the breaking it down into parts was kind of unnecessary. I feel like the movie flowed so well without those breaks and parts anyway that it wasn't necessary. But I think Thomas brings up a good point of like, this is what you should be focusing on for this part. And I think that's a really good like call out on that because I didn't really think about that, but you are right. Like the first part did like really bring up the letters. The second part, I think it was about the killings itself, and that is really what they go into the second part. They start going to the murder scene. They start one of the victims, so it does make sense. So it's kind of I'm neither here nor there on it. Like I could take it or leave it. It's honestly fine by me. It's whatever.
I mean, yeah, look, what Thomas said this could be a very good point for it, and I could see it being useful. I just absolutely.
Fair.
That's fair.
With that, I'm just going to open up the floor to let's just get into it. Let's talk about the nitty gritty of it. How do we feel about Nicolas Cage? Everybody just acting again.
Yeah.
I look at Felix's face.
God, it's just does such a good fucking job.
He always performs. I've never seen him not perform.
He's a great fucking actor. Like he really is great. Like he does some really shitty movies and some schlock and shit like that, but like when he wants to fucking put it on, he fucking puts it on. And this movie, him playing Longlegs, is like,
Longlegs.
Oh my god, perfect.
I thought he was the black guy.
That's how good he is.
I thought he was the lead FBI agent. I thought he was the black dude.
We'll talk about that dude because that dude's fucking my favorite. I fucking love that guy.
He's great.
But fucking Nicolas Cage is just, and the makeup for him and everything. He just
Yeah,
looks.
dude, the makeup team did great.
He's so fucking just like it's so fucking good. And like when I was reading reviews for this movie before seeing it, like people were talking about like Silence of the Lambs, and I see some of that in this movie, but like the main thing I see in it is the fucking antagonist. Like, because in Silence of the Lambs, the antagonist fucking just fucking creepy, and Nicolas Cage is just in this movie a creepy ass fucking guy that you would
Yeah,
not want to like just be talking to. Like he's both intimidating and also like whimsical. It's weird. It's
yeah.
like it's fucking. He's like another being. He doesn't even feel human. He
He's
feels
like,
like demonic or like
yeah,
Satan.
yeah. You look at him and you feel like I could take him, and then he starts speaking, and you're like, I should stay away from this person.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely got the vibe about him. I like the element of she's a psychic and she's fighting a black magic wizard.
Hmm.
I love it.
Fucking cool.
Because they could have been really grounded with this movie, which is what I thought it was going to be going in.
Hmm.
And I just love that immediately, like off the bat, she's like, "Hey, the person's in this house,"
Yes, dude.
and just they are. And I was like, "Okay, so she's probably something." And then they just from that scene immediately, like right after she gets the guy in the house, then they go straight to the test. They don't even
Yeah.
wait. They're just like, "Yeah, you probably figured out by now, but we're just gonna
Yeah,
make sure you
exactly.
get that she is something."
Exactly, dude. And like it's so good because that sets up her whenever she's talking to the black cop or FBI agent fucking, and he's like I heard you got 8 correct on the psychic test, and she's like, well, I also missed 8, and he's like, well, rather be 50% psychic than none.
Yeah, she
And I
might
was
have been
like,
bullshitting, honestly.
I mean, she could have
Because
been.
she always acted like she didn't want to like I don't know how to explain it, but she always acted like she didn't really want to like talk in a
Hmm.
like she always was cutting her conversations short and sweet and just kind of like seemed slightly annoyed with people.
Hmm.
So like she probably just didn't want people to think that she was different. So she could have very well just been lying.
Honestly, she's kind of autistic.
Yeah,
She's
I
kind
feel
of
that
she's
100%.
kind of autistic, and I like that about her character. How like weird it is for her like being social and everything. I think she just has such a good character dynamic with everyone because she's so different from everyone. You know, she's like obviously got social skills, but she's also very awkward, and I thought that was
Yeah,
very endearing and cool, and I really loved her character. But I love the 50-50 psychic thing because she does fuck up. Longlegs does get in her house and leaves her a letter. Like, there are things that she gets wrong. She doesn't take down her mom or realize that it is, sorry,
their mom's a part of it.
spoilers, yeah, but
Yeah,
that her mom's a part of the entire
I
thing.
think we can move into spoilers of the movie because this isn't
It's
like
going
a
to be
typical
hard.
this isn't like a typical like a movie where it's like, okay, well, we got to keep, like, if we were talking about like an upcoming film like Deadpool and Wolverine, we would
Mhm.
have to keep spoilers out just 100%.
Yep.
But with this is more of a horror movie to where like the spoilers of it are what makes the movie talkable about. Like, this is what makes
They're
the movie
so
like
it's
known.
they're so fucking fun to talk about and to like realize how they get to places because of like the spoilers, like how it gets to be in her mom. And there was just a tangent. Sorry, I'm talking so much, but like, it's just whenever she's on the phone with her mom, and she's calling her for the first time, and her mom's like, "Well, I've seen a lot of stuff. I was a nurse for 8 years." I immediately thought, "That's weird that you were a nurse for only 8 years. What else were you doing with your time besides being a nurse?" Because 8 years is a very short
Right.
amount of time. But like, I immediately thought something weird's with the mom. I don't know what
Yeah.
yet, but that was the first little like breadcrumb for me that was like something weird's happening with her,
I
and
was
I don't
beginning
know.
to wonder if she was dead. Because before we meet her, she keeps talking to her mom. She seems kind of annoyed, and also like I don't know. She seems like really weird about it. And then
Yeah,
there's
her
one
mom's really
scene where
weird.
she calls her up, and there's like whisperings and stuff. Thomas caught on to this in the movie theater too.
Hmm.
But there's like a weird noise before her mother finally starts speaking.
Yeah, there was a couple times where she was on the phone with her mom and she'd be talking to her, and then like you'd just be able to barely hear some sort of whisper. And I caught it once.
Hmm.
And so I sat up to try to like listen to hear if there was any more, and then it went back to her just being normal. And I was like, well, normal-ish
Yeah,
with what
yeah.
she is. But it's just very odd of how she acted. And I think what makes it even more interesting, since we don't really care about spoilers at this point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the mom was in cahoots with the devil.
Yep.
And I think the mom could even probably see what the devil was seeing at points.
Hmm.
So Mom kept asking, "Hey, you can tell me I've been a nurse for 8 years." I think the mom already knew what she had seen.
Yeah.
Mom already was aware of what she had been seeing and that kind of stuff. And I think she was just trying to comfort her and keep her in the aspect of not making herself suspicious
Mm-hmm.
and trying to keep up the gig for as long as possible
Yeah.
by just
And
seeming normal.
Yeah.
Which she does a decent job at. But I mean, it does really catch you off when it kind of is revealed that,
it did.
oh shit, she's not.
Yeah.
I
No.
mean, I don't know. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say this movie wrote itself, because there were obviously some good things in there, but when she first arrives at her mom's house and she finds that door that she can't go into, I immediately thought in my head, he lives in that house,
Mhm.
which also turned to be right. And then also when she found out that she had been visited by that man when she was younger, and then her mom kept lying about not seeing that man.
Yeah.
In my head, I thought she made a deal, but I didn't think the deal was that she's gonna help him. I figured the deal was that he could have her daughter later, or some weird shit like that, something like
Yeah.
that with like a soul or something. Not that she was gonna help him go murder people. That
Yeah.
was the crazy reveal to me. But I figured the mom was probably with him
Yeah, the mom was
after he
doing
visited, and then she lied about him ever being there. Then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
something definitely happened.
And I think that's a really cool part too, is that, I feel like you could definitely see the mom had something to do with it, like pretty much a mile away, but like what it was she was doing,
Was
the movie had
yeah.
it open ended enough to where you could still think about it, which
Yeah.
is a very good way. Like, movies don't have to be like fucking insane, like, oh, I didn't see that coming, because sometimes it just ends up being dumb and like beyond like reasonable doubt,
Yeah.
where this one, like, it fit and it worked and it was still satisfying, like figuring out exactly what the mother was doing. And another point I wanted to bring up on like the mom like pushing herself away from like working with him whenever Harker gets off the phone with her mother the first time. Another thing that happens, Longlegs brings the note, and the note says, "I'll cut your mother and make her bleed."
From her milk tits.
Yeah, from her milk tits.
Hang her from her milk tits and then bleed
Yeah,
her dead.
and that makes like Harker be like, "Oh shit, I can't talk about this with anyone." And it also makes it like, "Oh man, her mom's in danger."
Yeah.
But it turns out that was all planned out just to like
Yeah.
keep everyone away from her mom,
Yeah.
keep her mom out of the picture.
Yeah, but she does kind of immediately spoil it when she comes to the other FBI agent. She's like, "Yeah, crack the code."
Yeah, exactly. And he
Yeah, I know the
notices
code.
too.
And
He's
he's
like,
like,
"Huh,
okay."
okay." And like I can understand it because she was literally up until she fell asleep on the floor working on the original like cipher or whatever.
Yeah.
So it makes sense still, but like also it's does make sense for him to be suspicious of it still too. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's
and
like,
he's
okay,
absolutely
well,
right.
that was quick of you doing that.
Yeah. He's proven right at like nearly every turn, which good on him.
He is. Yeah, he's great.
He's awesome.
He's so good.
He really is. And it's very interesting how I think the mom kind of progresses through and how she really isn't like the main focus of the story, but I feel like so much of the story revolves around her.
Yes.
Totally.
Because even like they talk about like how every single one of the families is a no forced entry, really no one else's DNA in there.
Yeah.
It's just theirs.
Yep.
And it's very kind of an interesting point of like, well, how do they do it? How does this actually happen? How does
Yeah.
this get done? And I think the real kind of key aspect that kind of ties it all together is that the mom takes the dolls back once they're done doing it.
Yeah.
So the dolls never are left, because if the dolls were left, then
Then
it'd
they
be a
would-
key piece of evidence, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're right. Yeah.
So the mom always takes the doll with her. So I think the doll actually might be getting reused. They just change the hair to match whatever the hair is of the girl that's getting given it or
Sort
something.
of like an Annabelle situation.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they don't have to actually really like focus on like making a whole new doll for this girl
Yeah.
or whatever. They just focus on the hair, do that, and then
Yeah.
be done. I do really like that the movie didn't try to do these big plot twists of like, oh, it wasn't this at all.
Mhm.
It was very much of what you thought it was going to be, but it was twisted enough to where it wasn't what you were thinking.
Yeah.
Like we talked about the mom, right? And her
Yeah.
deal, right? That wasn't what any of us thought was actually happening. We knew the mom probably had made a deal, and the mom, for
Something
some
was
reason,
happening.
the mom was acting weird, and it was pretty obvious she knew something, right? But it wasn't the mom, is out literally watching these people get murdered.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole nother step.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually a really important thing that movies and games going forward can actually take.
Yeah.
That they don't need to make these massive twists and turns, make it interesting. They can leave things be pretty like open on like the aspect of, hey, this is what's happening and this person's acting suspicious.
Yeah.
But then give away, oh shit, this person's actually acting like way weird, and then it comes around, oh, this person's actually the fucking killer that I've been looking for, right?
Yeah.
Right in front of me this entire time. So it really can come full circle, and it makes it really odd.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little curious because they don't really show us much of like the other people like that, are getting killed or have been killed. So when they were talking about like how these people are like the daughters are dying, and they didn't talk about like sons dying. They just talked about the daughters dying for the most part. They talked about fathers getting, being the ones who are doing the killing and then killing themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful allegory.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I think that's
the mothers are also getting killed in it, right?
Yep.
So we know it's full families with daughters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then she reveals, hey, it's happening around the birthdays also.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, by the way, do you want to come to my daughter's birthday?
Yes.
And I'm like, so are we not putting things together or what's going on?
They never told us that the birthday was on the 14th for his daughter, which I think is a nice reveal later on.
I don't think it was
that we
on the
didn't
14th,
know.
though.
It could have been on the was it the 13th?
I think it was on the 15th because she was with the guy on her birthday, which was on the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was the 13th.
No, that was
because they were waiting for the murder to happen, and that was the last one, which was on the 13th. They all happen around the 14th. That's the connection.
It doesn't matter. It's all 6 days plus or minus the day of the Well, it's not even the 14th because
It's not the 14th.
It's
I think
just
it was the 13th.
It was
day of the birthday.
the day that the black magic man kills himself, which is Nicolas Cage. That was the 13th because the whole reason they were talking to him is they wanted to get to those people before they did what they did, and then that happened. And then I believe after that,
pretty sure they go straight to her mom's house.
Yeah, they go to her mom's house to pick her up, and then still from that it plays on.
Mm-hmm. So it could have been the 13th. I'm
So
not sure.
actually, maybe her birthday was no, because they said it was her birth. I think she was in the house for an extra day. I think that's what happened. Is remember when she passes out after you shoot the doll, and I think she lost her psychic powers, by the way. So because she had like a weird thing with her head and like passed out.
Yeah, no.
That was definitely a weird
it was when
thing.
the doll got shot in the head is when
Yeah.
she passed out.
Yeah.
And
So-
Kind of disconnecting that sense of maybe evil that was trying to latch on
like
to her.
whatever shit is happening with her.
I think she's partially psychic because of the doll.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the sense of the way she was psychic is actually she was sensing
Connected to
the
evil.
other evil
Yeah.
that was around her, that was surrounding her, right?
Yep.
And so
Like Spawn,
I think so.
using her evil powers for good.
Yes. Like Spawn or the Ghost Rider.
Or the Ghost Rider.
Wrapped because Nicolas Cage.
Or
Correct.
Magic.
Or Magic because Black Magic.
And X-Men.
And no.
Dr. Voodoo.
Dr. Voodoo. Also, I don't like voodoo because not all voodoo is bad voodoo.
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm wrong on that.
It's not.
It's not
There's
all
good
voodoo.
voodoo.
All voodoo isn't bad voodoo. So when he was like, it's just voodoo or black magic, I was like, it's actually just black magic. Because
Yeah.
voodoo is not all bad. And also, white people don't do voodoo. Sorry.
Yeah,
this is
no,
not a
white
thing.
people don't do voodoo.
White people do magic
Well,
or black magic. They don't
What
get to
about-
do voodoo.
Sometimes they do witchcraft.
did they do voodoo in
That's
Lovecraft Country?
Did they do voodoo? The white people?
In the Lovecraft? Because I know the
I
white
don't
people
know.
were just stealing shit.
Southern people, it's neither here nor there. Southern people do voodoo. Maybe it was a little bit Asian.
So one of my theories on why the like lead detective wasn't worried about his family and his daughter
Yeah.
was either he didn't think it was going to happen to him, which that's understandable.
Fair.
Or I don't know if the other families, because from what I saw, it was like it seemed like it was more like a lot of white neighborhood. If that makes sense.
The family that they go and visit where like we get the reveal of the body with maggots and shit, those were black people, were they not?
No, I don't think so.
I think their bodies were just decayed, man.
I think their bodies were just.
Well, yeah,
so
I know they were decayed, but I also thought that they were just black people.
I'm not sure.
No, I thought they were white
honestly.
people.
Maybe.
'Cause
I don't remember.
That's the other reason I thought that he wasn't worried. I thought maybe he was thinking
Maybe
like
he's
it was a
thinking
race
that too.
thing, where they were only targeting like that race.
I feel like he would have
He could've thought it
mentioned.
was a
I feel like
race
he
thing
would have
or a
mentioned that in the
religion thing.
profiling.
That's the other thing, right?
Could've been a
It could be a
religion.
Might be a
religion,
religion
race,
thing.
or just he
I
didn't
don't
think
know.
it was gonna happen to
I
him.
feel like he would have
Yeah.
mentioned that when they were profiling him. I also think the reason he didn't think that anything would happen to him, because first of all, he had received no notes and shit like that.
Yep.
He was under the influence of the doll and shit.
Mhm.
But also, not only that, but none of the dolls were found at other crime scenes, so he couldn't connect that to anything.
Yep.
So I don't think in the religion piece, I don't think he really quite connected because also, I mean, a nun showed up to his house and they invited her in to give the doll because that's how she got the doll there.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think she was also. I think he also was either of that religion or just like associated towards it enough that he would let. Because like me personally, a
Mhm.
nun shows up with a gift, I'll probably not let the nun in. And that's not to say that like I'm against that religion or anything, but it's just like I don't know you, nun.
It's also the
Yeah,
90s too, though.
You better let Mother.
Yeah, you're not
Mother
wrong. It is
Miranda or
also the
Mother
90s.
whoever.
Yeah, you better
in.
let Mother Teresa know. I don't know her.
Yeah, I feel like people were more like welcoming of people to just like be like, oh yeah, sure, come in.
That is totally a fair point.
Yeah, that's complete.
I don't know. That's my theory on it, is that the doll plays a bigger part in this than
The doll's fucked.
we really think that we get. And they do the nun eyes. If anyone's ever seen the nun, they do the nun eyes. Fucking freaky.
Yeah.
Those eyes were fucking awesome. That shit was so cool. There was that. There was like the goat head imagery too.
Yeah, the devil.
Yeah,
Yeah,
straight
and, like,
up.
And that shit just like that guy would just pop up like randomly in some scenes.
Yeah, he'd just be
was-
behind. He'd just be behind people. When she
Exactly.
hears the shotgun go off
Yes.
and her mom fires,
Uh-huh.
she turns around and in the window in the back is the devil.
Yep.
And it's just little things like that
It's
where it's
so
just
good.
you have to be paying super close attention, otherwise you will miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%,
that is
yeah.
one of my. That is a fear that I'm gonna have to conquer if I ever get into a field like that, because that is.
Yeah.
Because I've heard horror stories of like them of like people in that field saying shit like they've seen crazy shit.
Yeah.
Like there's like this little tangent here. There's like this story of an officer who's like went to like report to a house for I think domestic child abuse, some shit like that.
Mhm.
And he got invited to the house and was just sitting down talking with the mother and just having a normal conversation. He says that he saw one of the kids walk up the wall and then come back down, and he just had to pretend like it was a normal conversation and then leave the house. I'm just like, nothing can prepare you for that, to see some crazy shit like that. Yo,
If I ever saw shit like that, I'd probably
I'd excuse myself. I'd say excuse me, but I actually
yeah.
no. They just actually said
I'd
something.
go to Waffle House. I'd get a thing of hash browns fully loaded,
Yep.
fucking with everything.
And I'd drive to the nearest church and I'd spend the night there, and then I'd go to the next church in the town over and spend the night there also, just in case that church was bad. Then I have to go back to my
I
life.
definitely
Go
just
visit the
drive home.
priest.
Yeah.
At some point, we got to watch True Detective because you
Yeah.
guys really need to watch True Detective.
Yeah, I know. I've seen something. So yeah. Anyways, that was just a little quick tangent on some weird shit that happens. I mean, like, this is real stuff because, like, look, whether you believe in this type of thing or not, there have been countless reports on of it happening, which that can be led to mental illness and shit like that. But I mean, also, like, you can never really truly rule out that something isn't possible. And I just that's just my fear with it.
I think that's the best kind of horror. Best
Yeah.
kind of scary
Yeah,
is that when you can't fully make it a thing that you know can't happen.
Yeah.
yeah.
If there's any slight possibility, even the furthest fucking thing possible,
Yeah.
it makes it that much more terrible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm not an overly religious person, but I promise you, some fuck shit happened to me. It's a church, like it's a church and a priest visit. I just can't explain it to you, but I just know that
So what do you
that's
think?
a proven
What
solution.
would
and
you
that's where we're
do
going.
if tomorrow a nun showed up to your house with a big box?
Right,
and
I'm
said,
shooting her.
"You've-"
She shot. She died. She passed. Look, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in patterns. She's dead. Absolutely
Cops
finished.
are gonna show up. Why did you shoot this nun?
Absolutely finished.
We just had a conversation about it last
No
night.
solicitors.
Look at the box. Open
No
the box.
solicitors.
Open the box, and it's
If
just
it's
a beautifully wrapped PS5.
Beautifully wrapped PS5. She's like, I think the devil was gonna take your PS5 out, so I wanted to get you a new one.
Yeah, no, that's fucked.
Yeah.
It's a PS5 with fucking the plates have big old white Jesus on it.
Oh, they. I like how you just specify white Jesus.
Big old white Jesus.
One side has white Jesus, the other side has black Jesus.
Yep.
Hispanic
Both-
Jesus is down the middle of
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Both
There you
sides
go.
have like bedazzled crosses in them.
Yeah, you got the Jesus piece.
Yep. That'd be badass, man. If I had a fucking PS5 with every color Jesus on it, I'd be the happiest.
You got a rainbow of Jesuses.
Yeah, exactly.
You got gay Jesus over there, even though he's not a race, but you still gotta get gay
dude.
Jesus.
You got gay Jesus. Yeah,
You got
all
lady
of them.
Jesus.
They got trans Jesus, dude.
Trans
we got all.
Jesus,
I'd be badass,
that's
man.
cool.
Got all the
Cold.
Jesuses.
These are all my Jesuses. I fucking fuck, man.
Does your religion have this many Jesuses? Because mine does.
Mine does, because my religion's badass.
How many Jesuses does your religion?
'Cause
Only one? That's bullshit, dude. You gotta
there were
fucking
at
get on
least
my
20
shit.
Jesuses.
Yeah, you need at least 20. Fucking. Anyways, the movie. Another thing, soundtrack and just audio editing in general.
Very great.
All the audio is amazing.
Very
Like,
great.
The
yeah.
noises, like the whispers and shit that like
Yeah.
Thomas heard.
Yeah.
Like there's just so many creepy sounds and like effects and stuff that are fucking fantastic.
100. 100.
I'm a little curious on why they chose the kind of classic rock group they chose. Because not only did they choose T-Rex,
Dude, yeah, that first like the lyrics, I was like T-Rex. What the fuck? Insane.
first lyrics
T-Rex.
right in the movie shows a T-Rex like lyric.
And T-Rex
Yep.
is kind of like a deep cut a little bit.
It is
Like
because
people don't really listen to T-Rex.
they got what, one big song which we heard at the very very end,
Yeah.
and then there's not a lot else.
Yeah, dude.
So I was kind of surprised to see a T-Rex thing, and I was like, okay.
Fucking cool.
And then in the
Guys.
credits, they're like, "Oh yeah, we've played 3 T-Rex songs over this entire
Yes,
film," and I'm
dude.
like,
Guys,
Jesus.
T-Rexes
Badass.
can't sing.
Well, that T-Rex could, and they did a fucking good job.
First
They
album
were
was called
shredding-
6000 BC.
They were shredding that fucking guitar.
Oh,
let me
they
tell
were.
you.
Yeah,
Gold.
they were fucking. Yeah, but that was.
No, maybe
God,
maybe
so
they're devil
cool.
worshippers. Maybe we just don't know they're about T-Rex, or
Dude,
maybe
I
maybe one of
wanna-
the people from
could-
T-Rex
could
are like
been.
was
I don't
involved in the
know.
movie and was
I
just
want
like,
to
let me
go
do
back
this.
and like listen to what Nicolas Cage said, and then see if any of that was T-Rex lyrics, because I'm pretty sure some of the stuff. He
Oh my
said,
god! When he was
Might
probably
have.
singing, yes.
Yeah.
When he was
Yeah.
singing, it probably was because there's
probably
like that.
T-Rex.
So what I do like about him is that they don't focus on his face too. Like they focus on his face because obviously
They
the beautiful
don't,
makeup.
which is
But there
great.
there are
They
parts.
build it up.
Yeah, there are parts where like he's obviously casting a spell with the way he speaks. Because I thought it was gonna be a thing of like hypnotism, right? Because like there were
That's what I
signs
was
pointing to
thinking, too.
hypnotism. And I was like, he's probably hypnotizing and just fucking with people in general. And then they add in the compliments and all that shit. But essentially, when he gets caught with Lee the first time and he's in the snow, and we finally get to see that full scene pan out,
Yep.
and then they zoom on his hands and he's doing all the motions with his hands and shit like that. I was like, that nigga is casting a spell.
Mhm.
Because he was doing the singing, and he also like he hits certain chords that also I think there are things, I can't remember if this is a true thing or if I'm making this shit up, but I think in like the way sound is, there are certain things that are like satanic noises and shit. Something kind of like from what is that movie called? Like Evil Dead Rise.
Mhm.
Like shit like that, where like in certain audio cues, like you hear like devil speak, or like the thing of if you play certain songs backwards, you can hear people worshiping the devil, shit like that.
Mhm.
So I think that's what that kind of harkens back to. But he was definitely like, when he was moving his hands and shit, you could tell that he was like casting a spell along with the words, because the words don't quite make sense with what he's saying. Then he pans them out and he sings into certain chords and shit, and then you they add on the sound effects to it and like spread it out, and like it would also explain how they managed to make Lee forget this shit, some of this shit ever happening and shit like that.
Yeah.
Because he's fucking with their minds, or it could have just been hypnotism. But I mean, the black smoke and the weird bowl and the sounds like that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely magic versus psychic, but also with an element of maybe some of these things are just psychological more than they are actually happening.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that, like, there's a bunch that's open to interpretation, like with the movie. And what you bring up with the, like, him singing and, like, his hand gestures and stuff makes me think back to when she first deciphers, like, the, like, triangle that happens with the dates.
Yep.
And she, like, creates
Inverted
the
triangle.
satanic, yeah, she creates
Yep.
the satanic symbol with that. Like, that could also have to do with his singing, you know? Maybe that could do with, like, the pitch, like, and doing
Yeah,
shit like
and hitting the
that.
certain chords to make it go.
Yeah, like there's a lot like where even if that's not a part of the movie makes you think enough with everything it gives you that like your mind can kind of run wild, which is just super fun, and I think really shows a like point of excellence this movie does with like letting the viewer kind of create their own like mythos almost with it, and like see how the world is built, but also think about how the world is built without being given too many answers, but enough to where you've got building blocks, you know?
Yeah. Hear that?
I actually have kind of a theory on
Go ahead.
the cuckoo guy. I don't
Yeah.
remember what they
Black
call him.
Magic.
Black Magic.
Longlegs.
Longlegs. Correct.
Longlegs. Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. So you were talking about like how his hands were doing like certain things, and you're thinking he was casting spells and stuff like that. I think that dude's body was controlled by the devil 99% of the time, if not the whole time. Because if you think about it, even if he is doing things like that, the amount of pure will that would have to be like in someone, slam their face full force into a
Yeah.
table multiple times until they died
Yeah.
is astronomical. Basically almost zero, because your brain starts to tell you that you're, hurting yourself too much, right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna try to stop you. So it's something that I think is because he's so attached to the other side that I think the devil may have been like, "Okay, you've done
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you
This is
did
your
everything you're
time.
supposed to. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're done." And then he just takes over, smashes his face, and then he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
like
think
that.
that might just be how it would work, because I think that when he was doing the weird hand things, and then she's like, even at the convenience store, she's like, "Hey, do you need anything else?" He does like the cuckoo thing.
Yes.
That may not just be that. May be him that he control himself.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
The devil's just kind of fucking
Fucking with
around.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking with people.
He
Yeah.
also,
That's what the devil
after that
does.
scene when he gets in that car, he also hits that same chord that he hits talking to her
Yeah.
the first time.
Yeah.
He hits it again there. Yeah, no, I agree with the face slamming thing. I think through this podcast, because you don't watch a lot of horror movies and shit, through this podcast, you're gonna see more that happens in it. That is like a
Oh,
thing when
yeah.
it comes to like
That is,
when it comes to
any
the
kind of
devil,
possession
the
shit.
face slamming against the table. It's nearly a staple. I think
Yeah.
it's actually in the other movie that we're gonna watch this week. I'm
Oh
pretty
yeah.
sure it happens in that
No,
movie.
100%.
Well, I
Yeah.
wasn't saying that it necessarily wasn't a staple. I was saying more.
No, that's not what I
Oh, no,
wasn't
no, no.
discounting what you were saying. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying like lots of times in relation to demonic like possession and shit like that, that is a thing that happens because they can't control it necessarily.
Yeah.
So I just found it interesting that you picked up on that without having like knowledge of like other shit like that relates to that.
Yeah.
That like you connected the dots because I was like, yeah, that's pretty spot on.
Fucking cool.
I think that they're trying to keep it very realistic.
Yeah.
So they were trying
Yeah.
to do it that way, and I think that they did this is a totally different topic almost, but like when they were like trying to build suspense or trying to make the people that were watching anxious,
Mm-hmm.
they'd make Lee like her breathing more like abundant through the speakers.
Yeah, she
So
seems
you
very
could
nervous.
you could really hear her breathing.
Yes.
And it's a known thing, and people do it in video games even, where they'll make the breathing much heavier and much higher.
Uh-huh.
That way, makes the player actually breathe heavier and raise their heartbeat,
Yes.
so that they're more nervous and they're more on edge. And by doing that, obviously, you're accomplishing what you want, which make the viewer, player, whoever, more on that edge and more just
Yeah.
terrified of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie does such a good job
Yeah.
at like building tension and like oh god. Yeah. The atmosphere that this movie's able to create is really like fascinating. Like the tension, the like there's some like good like quirky humor every now and then.
Yeah.
Like the fucking black cop he's amazing.
He's an FBI.
He's a hero.
You gotta call him special
He's a
agent.
hero. Special
like-
agent. Special agent. I'm
He's
sorry.
black cop, and I'm
I
like,
keep
all right,
saying cop.
you gotta call him special agent.
He's special
'Cause
agent.
everybody else is the FBI.
Fucking
you gotta
head of
call
the
him.
fucking
Or-
FBI.
Or
like
Agent Carter. His
Agent
name
Carter.
was Agent
Yeah,
Carter.
his name is Agent
that
Carter.
is so funny that his name's Agent Carter. Agent Carter. My true Agent Carter. My favorite Agent Carter. This man.
Isn't that?
So good.
That's the name of the
like
guy
that
from
very-
Rush Hour.
Dude, that's the name of the
The black guy from Rush Hour.
That's the name of the
That's his
fucking
name.
Marvel show. Agent Carter?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I
That's
feel
not
like
related to
Agent
it.
Carter's
It's the
very
black guy.
overused.
This
It's
guy's
black
my
guy from
favorite.
Rush Hour.
This guy's my favorite Agent Carter ever. Like he
That's fair.
is
He's solid.
brings
Blair
such a
Underwood.
good-
Yeah,
ah,
he's another shit. He's very good. Also,
he's amazing.
Mika Monroe, who plays Lee Harker.
He's great.
She's very good at like portraying like fear and like
Yes,
emotions.
she
I
does
don't.
that.
I haven't really seen people that are too typically like just spot
Yeah,
on like
she's
that, but
good.
she's got that look in like her eyes,
Yeah.
and I was like, God, like
She's
damn,
got
like I
this,
feel what
like-
she's feeling.
This like meekness to her, but also like she could fucking take somebody out too.
100%.
Which is God, she's really, really fucking good. All of the actors are great. Now I will say, all right, so we talked about this movie super positively. Like it's amazing. I love this movie.
yeah,
But there are a couple scenes that I was like, And that's kind of weird.
Okay.
First one, when they go see that one girl in the psych ward.
Yes, she was the. Well, I mean, obviously later
She
on
was
we
the
find-
one that survived. She was the one that
She was
lived.
the first one to survive, correct?
Yeah.
But she wasn't the first. She wasn't the first.
She was the only one
She
that
wasn't the
survived.
murder. She wasn't the first house that he went to murder people at.
No.
She was the only
Well,
one to survive.
Only one to survive.
and
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
She wasn't the first house that like he visited, but she was the only one to survive. And then Lee Harker's house was one where he didn't get to do anything. Was that his first one that he tried, or did he do one before he got to Lee Harker?
Because he's been doing it since '65, and he got
Okay,
to
so
Lee in
Lee
like
Harker was like
74,
okay, so she
something
was a
like
little
that.
bit down the line,
Yeah,
and
she
then
was
he
a
got
ways down
help
the
through
line.
her. Okay,
Yeah,
But I
'cause-
think
that makes more sense.
like happened before her
Before
I
the
think Lee happened
the
before
Carter
her.
girl,
yeah,
Yeah.
the
because the doll.
Cameron, what did they
Mhm.
say her
Yeah.
name is?
Yeah.
Because the doll had to be made.
yeah. Well, he
And
was making
I
dolls the
don't know
entire
if
time.
He was making dolls. Well, yeah, that's true. But like, I feel like how he a very odd looking guy. Like, I would not trust that fucker.
Yeah, no. Like he
Just because
definitely
he's ugly doesn't mean you can't trust him.
Brother, he was playing Whiteface as white guy. Fucking weird.
He was very,
It's
in a weird
fucking
way, he was
weird.
very feminine, which I like.
He was.
I don't like.
It was
Look, this is gonna sound like a weird thing to say because I like the relation to it in the terms of relating it to the devil because the devil is very, very beautiful in a genderless
Yeah.
sort of way.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like the relation to that. Kind of like if you ever watch Powerpuff Girls,
him.
who is it him?
Yeah, it's him.
Him who is
Him
just
is
the
great.
devil,
I
but
love him.
is like the most feminine figure in the feminine speaking
Yeah,
figure and dressing figure, but
they're
very like
amazing.
male coded. Like I like the fact that the devil is still beautiful in a way that it transcends things like gender or what you just find
Yeah.
beauty. Like that's what makes the devil such an encapsulating like character or like villain in a way is that
Yeah.
no matter who you are, you're drawn towards them for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's really cool. And I definitely do like hate the trope of like feminine evil bad guy, but if it's done well, like Longlegs and like him too in Powerpuff
Yeah.
Girls, like they are some of the most intimidating, scary fucking people ever. Where they're not like treated like in a comedic sense, but like this person could fucking murder you and like
Like, if you ever
also
watched,
like
like,
the
yeah.
like I was saying like the whimsy with them too. Like
Yes,
they're also it's
yes.
like the fucking the rat caller that like plays his flute or whatever to get all the rats. Like it's just you just follow them, you know.
The Pied Piper?
No, not the Pied Piper. Pied Piper's different.
What are you talking
The
about?
Rat Queen.
Not the Rat Queen. No, it's like I
That's the
can't
thing
remember.
that we did.
No, Pied
No, no, no,
Piper's
I was talking
different.
about- I was talking
Maybe
about,
Pied
Suicide
Piper-
Squad.
I don't know. There's a guy that plays flute and fucking rats follow him.
Pied Piper.
Is that Pied Piper?
I mean, it's different through every single media, but that's typically the Pied Piper.
Okay.
Yes,
Well,
I
the Pied
believe.
Piper. Yeah. That.
I
like,
believe,
Like,
or
like
the-
that.
We know what you're talking about. The
You know-
Rat
you know-
King,
you know what I
essentially.
mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays the
Uh,
flute, and the rats are all like, "Let me look work for you."
This guy's fucking awesome.
Yeah, like that.
He's
I don't
got
know.
the
I really like.
Editor clip this part.
No.
Wait,
Cool.
wait. We got it. Okay, okay. We were talking about the girl, why it's a bad scene, or why I think it's a bad scene with
Yes,
the girl.
because you're gonna
And
say
it's
you
not,
did something about it.
It's not a bad scene. It's just I don't like that actress. I think she was too like.
Kieran and Shipka.
Yeah,
Did I ever pull
I
up-
don't think she did a good job. I think she was too much like, ooh.
I didn't know
kooky.
she was in this movie until I pulled up the cast list. To be perfectly honest, and then I was like, "Who did she play?" And then it came to me. I think it's just more to show influence, but I can see like overall to the overarching thing in the movie, other than the fact that she jumps off the building on the 13th day,
Mhm.
is absolutely useless.
Yeah, she doesn't really add anything. I think she's just like, ooh, I'm a kooky, crazy character.
Yeah,
Hear
and
me
I would
say,
kill you.
I would kill you if you told me to. I'd do whatever. And I'm like, okay, what is the scene providing? Like,
Yeah,
it
just the
didn't-
fact that he has influence, which we already knew he had because he's killing people without
Exactly.
actually killing them.
I just the
Yeah.
scene wasn't like I understand why they did the scene. I don't feel like it added anything, and I don't think she was good. And then the other
Yeah,
one,
she's
that-
hit or miss.
yeah, exactly. That was like one part I didn't like.
And she's 24, Thomas.
What do you guys think about that part? Okay.
I don't know why I was thrown in this, but okay.
I mean, that could work for both of you.
That's his type.
It could work for me.
Gross. So what did you think about that,
Okay.
Thomas?
I think that the scene itself is actually a very necessary scene that had to happen, because if you actually remember what was going on at that point, they only had two things to run down, which was her mother, ask her, what she looked like, and then going to her because she was the only survivor and trying to get information.
They were running down the house.
Well, they ran down the house, but the house didn't.
No, I'm talking about like when we got to that scene where they went to visit her in the asylum. They went to the
I went to the house
they
first.
had they were checking down the two leads of that was before they knew about the mother. That was checking down the lead of the house and her because those related incidents.
Well, yeah, but they were checking down the house first, right? They got the doll out, and then
they went to visit.
Went to go visit her.
Mm-hmm.
They went to go visit her because they were looking for more information.
Mm-hmm.
So when they got there, and she was like, "Yeah, dude, I'd just kill you if I wanted to, or if they told me to, or I'd jump off.
He told me to, I'd just kill you.
Or I'd just go jump off something if they told me to, right?"
Yeah.
That was a way of showing the amount of control that it had. But yes, the scene itself didn't give much information to the investigation, but that's what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
But
totally pick
agree.
up on that.
The actor itself, I think, is a good point that you guys were hitting on the aspect of how I think there probably was someone better. Only
Yeah.
because this person seemed super fucking normal.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Being
Besides the
in a-
stuff they were saying.
Yeah,
Right.
looked great, honestly.
Yeah, they were like, I'm just kooky
Yeah.
crazy.
I honestly,
I'm just kooky
in
crazy.
a weird way, I think this was an actress that's too big for that kind of role. If that makes sense. Because I know who she is and I know the shit that she's in, so
What's
she's
she
famous
been?
enough. Sabrina, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina,
Well,
huge Netflix TV show.
yeah, and that's kind of a totally different role than this.
I know, but I also
It's a
think
very much different role.
she's trust me on this. She is well known. I think she's known
No,
enough.
it's not
that-
well known. It's just like,
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is that I think she's too far up for this role to where she can do it to the point where she should I didn't feel like she put enough care into like the small role. She probably, I don't know. It's a weird. I'm trying to say that like she's not the one for the role at all.
no.
Essentially, I think it should have been somebody else. I don't think it's her that she could have done a better
bad
job.
actress, dude.
I think she just shouldn't have been in the role.
I just don't think it's necessarily the size of her though.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Her size itself, I don't think matters. I think you could have put someone who is equally as big as her or bigger in the role, and if they would have done a more on-tune job of being, I think that what they could have done is really just try to get them to act more like Longlegs,
yeah,
and that would have been very fucking
yeah,
good
exactly.
because
Yeah.
that would have shown how far along they actually are.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. And if you're gonna like sign up for, I mean, just put your fucking best into it, you know?
I know, but some actors aren't like that. I mean, I've watched plenty of things with other people who are way bigger that you can tell when they're throwing it in.
Yeah, it's
Like
just-
that. That's what I mean.
it
Is
was-
like
it was
I
bad.
don't think it's a fact of like.
And it wasn't.
I
Like,
think she did a bad job, but I
She did
don't
a
think it's
bad
because
job.
like I think they shouldn't have cast her. I think that was the problem, is that they casted her and she did not. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it just didn't feel like she wanted to do that role because of the way she was acted. It wasn't acted with the amount of care that everybody else is seemingly bringing to this movie with the way they interact.
Yeah, I mean,
It just kind of
if
felt
you're-
like we were reading lines and just kind of being like, yeah.
if you're going to be in a movie, like, just like, I don't know, I have
Yeah.
less respect for you as
Yeah,
like
totally.
an
That's
actor
yes.
if you're like just gonna phone it in.
I'm not saying you get away with it. I'm just saying that's what it looks like this happened. to
Yeah,
her.
and I think maybe that's I don't know the person, so I have no idea.
That's fair.
But like,
I
it
feel like
just-
they could have even been going for like two different kind of styles.
yeah,
They could have been going
maybe.
for like the crazy style that she is, right?
Mhm.
And she could have also been going for like the almost
Fresh out of a coma girl.
kind of.
Yeah, because she was just fresh
She
out
She
of
was
the
just
coma,
in
right?
they said she was comatose until 2 days prior when she got visited by Longlegs.
And the
she
guy-
woke
That's
and-
up.
so
and the
weird.
guy
too.
was like-
I feel like
Yeah,
she was
she
up
was
for
just
like 8
perfectly-
years.
Yeah, she was just perfectly like,
I mean,
yeah,
there's
whatever.
just a lot of like weird, like coincidences with her happening around all at the same time. She just feels like a character that's in there, like, just to fill her role, of course. But I feel like you don't need all this extra shit of, oh, she just woke up from a coma. Oh, she just killed herself. Oh, she's crazy too. It's like, it feels like you're just adding stuff onto this character to make them seem interesting. when you're just trying to use them as a piece for this story beat and that's it. And we
Yeah.
don't need all of this on this
100%.
one throwaway character.
Yeah. Also would bring up that maybe she was built to be kind of a similar parallel to Lee in the fact that she's a survivor essentially. We don't learn quite that Lee's a survivor, but Lee did. I mean, she's a survivor.
they're
She's one
both
that
the
got
people
away.
that got
They are
away.
both people that just made it out
And
of it
that-
for some reason.
I mean, that would have been good if they did that, but it didn't really feel like
It didn't
they
feel
were
like
doing
it,
that.
but like, that is essentially they're built to be sort of parallels. So maybe it's like to be
Yeah.
like, well, maybe had her mother not stepped in, her mother had killed herself, maybe Lee would have been in the same situation. But that's just extra shit to shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
but,
just really
like,
nothing.
It's just a bunch of stuff that kind of it doesn't help how she acted, and her character itself just feels kind of tacked on.
Yeah.
Like it feels like they're not really thought about. It felt like they thought about what happened to her and like them going to the house and finding the X marks the spot and everything. That was a really good scene. Like they
Yeah.
put so much care into that and finding the doll and then getting the brain out of the doll and fucking putting the scanner to it. Like that is a scene where there's so much care put into it that it's kind of like weird how little care is put into them going to the
Meeting a survivor.
yeah,
Who
exactly.
wasn't? I mean, she wasn't there, so she didn't really see anything. Which also, I still don't understand why she went into like a coma. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
right,
mean, I
that's
get
one of
like
those
trauma
things-
has different effects on people, but also she didn't see shit.
Yeah,
She
that's-
just came
that's
home
what
and her
I'm-
family
It was
dead.
it was the doll.
Yeah.
The doll was
Yeah,
cased
yeah.
up. So because the doll was cased
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
she was cased up, right?
Well, but didn't she wake up 2 days before that though?
Cold.
But
Yeah,
the 2
after
days
Longlegs
before that,
visited her.
the 2 days before that,
He probably
was
woke
when
her
they
up.
found the doll.
Oh, you think? Oh,
No, that's what they said.
Was
They
it?
said
No,
when
it
they found the
was.
doll, she woke up.
but also
okay.
Longlegs visited her too.
But
That's
you got to
cool, then.
remember, the doll is connected to the evil.
Yeah.
Longlegs is connected to evil.
Yeah.
So Longlegs knows the doll's back awake. He knows then that the girl's back awake. Then he'd
Yeah.
go.
And then he was like, "You gotta kill yourself, or else
Yeah.
But-
I'm gonna fucking marry you or
I'm
some
going
shit."
to marry you and make you have devil babies.
I
He
think,
couldn't get it up.
I think she might have seen the writing on the wall already. So she was acting like her crazy part that she needed to. But I think she was also trying to act like the kind of like disinterested.
Yeah,
Or-
she just seemed like she
Yeah.
didn't give a fuck about anything.
right.
Yeah.
And I think
It's
that
like,
could
I'd
have been
be-
the other case.
Happy as Peaches just to shoot you. Like
Mhm.
okay, which I
Yeah,
do like.
right. Was-
Look, I like some of it. I like the dialogue in it, and I do like the
The
delivery of.
dialogue-
I'd be happy as Peaches to jump
I
off the
mean,
roof if he told me to. You know.
That's
And I was
that's
like,
what,
okay,
that's what I hate about
that's
it.
very fun and pippy, but you also sound like you're from the fucking 50s.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, how long she was in a coma since? I don't.
So the guy
She wasn't that old. She
She was not that
she
old.
looked like she was
Probably like
pretty
80s
young.
maybe.
I think that was one of the murders that were like closer to where this movie takes place.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, I didn't like her dialogue, which is weird because I really like Longlegs' dialogue, and it feels like they were trying to emulate that, but I think it's just her delivery. Like it just didn't work for me.
That's totally fair.
that is completely fair.
The other thing, I don't even know if I didn't like it. The more I think about it, the more it's just kind of funny. Fucking when Longlegs is just standing there at the bus stop, like holding his fucking cases, and then you just have fucking cops rolling down.
Dude, oh my God.
I
But, like,
love that
the
scene.
one thing I would say about
love
that is-
so
scene.
funny.
First of all, any other cop in the situation pulls up, weapons drawn, aim at the head, and says, "Go to the fucking ground." This is why dude pulls up, hand on his weapon, but his weapon's fully holstered, puts his fingers out, and goes, "Sir,
You're like,
I need you to get on the fucking ground." And it's just like, all right, bro.
Well,
This thing I've been murdering families. I would have shot the nigga. I would have pulled up and be
was-
like, all right, bro.
it was
Good night.
so funny. It was like it was such a weird scene. It felt like
so weird how he said
it
it.
felt like it was like straight up like an action movie, like where they're like,
It did. The way
"Yeah,
they were all
Bravo,
like, we got him, we got him, we
right
got
here.
him.
We got him. We gotta get him. Go to him."
You hear like the choppers coming
Yes,
too.
dude. No, but fucking, it's just the cops are just. It's such a weird scene, but I
Yeah.
kind of love it. It kind of fucking adds to like the etherealness and like weirdness of like everything happening.
Yeah. One thing about that
Ugh.
scene is I like how Lee doubles down on being on her job, right? Because he
Yeah.
had threatened her mother, and so she could have very well kept like everything a secret, even though she really wasn't. She was kind of just spilling some beans and shit. But I like the fact that like as soon as she found the picture of him, she was like, "All right, we're gonna put the manhunt out." They just immediately found him. She put the manhunt out and immediately found him. She wasn't even
Yep.
taking the risk of like, well, he could go kill my family, so maybe I should hide this.
Yep.
She was like, "Nah, we're gonna go get this motherfucker."
Yeah, and that's that's the fucking that also makes me sad with Lee, because I feel like if she would have given the note, which obviously for the story, if she gave the note, that would have
That
they would have
immediately
found her
tipped him
mom
off.
immediately, like everything would have happened quickly. So it makes sense. It makes me so sad with how it ends. Like it's good.
It is.
I
Yeah,
think it
it is
makes
sad.
sense. But also like one thing that I kind of have a question about is so Lee's doll, her mom fucking puts a bullet through it, you know? And then
Yes.
fucking that evil leaves her head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever she goes to
Carter's.
Agent Carter's
Yep.
place, uh she should just fucking be all right. So it ends on not necessarily kind of a cliffhanger, kind of just open your own interpretation, but she doesn't shoot the doll immediately. She does pull the gun out and then puts the gun up. Shouldn't she be able to just shoot the doll since that evil's left her?
See, I want to break into that because so what happens is essentially she get there and she sees Agent Carter and they're throwing the birthday party for his daughter.
Yep.
And just she sees her mother there. Her mother's been helping and kind of spreading this evil around to get them to kill people. Agent Carter takes his wife and the mom's like, oh, the mother's already dead and shit. So he takes his wife into the kitchen and you can hear him stabbing her in the background.
Yep.
It's awful.
Yeah.
But in that preset
makes me
of all
so
that, she's
sad.
talking to her mother, and the entire time, me and Thomas are like, we're both like, just shoot the fucking dog.
Oh yeah, dude. No, I was
Just-
thinking the
just
exact
shoot the doll.
same thing as you guys. Were
And so
saying.
eventually, Agent Carter comes out, and she's just like, "Hey, you have to stop." He doesn't stop. She pops one into him, or maybe two,
Think
drops
two.
him. She has a
Yeah.
revolver. Her mom stands up to attack her. He kills her mom, which is brutal. But yeah, I mean, she probably needed to go, which is weird because, her mom was doing it to protect her at first. Then I think the devil got into her so much
Oh,
along the
yeah.
way
I think so.
that she was just now it's only for the devil. So she
Yep.
shoots her mom, and she picks up the little girl. And so she says to have 3 rounds left. She holds the gun to the doll's head, and is she not pulling? Do we not hear the clicking of her
Pretty
pulling
sure
the
We
Trigger.
do.
trigger?
We
Hear
do
the
hear the
clicking.
clicking. Yeah.
So that would either imply that the gun's empty, or there's some type of mental blockage or something that's just fucking with her to where she feels like she is, and we get the sense that she is, but she's not actually
Mm-hmm.
pulling the trigger.
So I have a theory.
Okay.
The doll itself only basically controls the daughter. So shooting the doll won't actually deflate the situation. Because if you remember correctly, her doll gets shot, right? And she kind of has to reset, basically.
Yeah.
But when that happens, the mother doesn't stop killing. The mother goes on to go take the doll to the other person, right? To the last family.
Yep.
So, in that kind of scenario, that would suggest that the doll infects the minds of the family members, but the only mind that can be released by the doll being destroyed would be the daughter.
That's totally fair. Yeah.
Which means that once the father and mother have seen the doll and are basically, a part of the doll, or, have taken
Hypnotized
in
by it.
the evil of the doll, right?
Yeah.
That by shooting the doll, it's going to do jack diddle. So by her saving the rounds and killing the father and then her mother, she probably actually did the right thing. I don't know if I wouldn't have
Not
still.
releasing the mind of the. I mean, I guess
You know what?
I-
That
I
actually
still-
might.
it might
I
be the
still
fear
would've-
of killing the little girl if she kills the doll.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
when they kill the doll of
She
the
pulls the trigger. We
one
hear the
lady-
clicks.
that, and it could just be,
Oh.
and it could also
weird.
be throughout the entire movie we're getting shit that's fucking with sound and what we're hearing and everything. So it could also be that she did fire the round. It's not registering with her. Maybe she did actually take
You're
it
right.
out.
They're also. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So it could just be that it actually did happen, but
Oh, I feel like we
I don't
saved
know.
Flash or some shit. I don't know. I also think. I don't
it's
know.
one I
I
want to
think
watch
the
again.
doll. I feel like this is it's a good movie when you can rewatch and there's gonna be more shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I think though that the doll was already there when we first get introduced to the family. Because if you pay attention, she delivers the doll, and then she visits again. Does she not?
Mhm.
I don't
She
think it's like
delivers
a
the doll.
one-time
I think-
drop off, and then she's there, and the doll just does all of its shit. There's one time where they deliver the doll, and then a priest comes by at some point
Mhm.
after the doll's been there watching the family for a little bit.
So that one, I think, is.
You see him hanging out with the doll and shit.
It's either one
Yeah.
of two things, right? It's either before the mother got into the whole scenario, So the doll had to be
Okay,
implanted into the
okay.
family earlier on, right? And got more
Okay.
use of the family. Or it was a part of the family, but it was like a early present or a Christmas present or something like that. And so because to keep with the whole killing around, certain birthday, it had to wait. And so it experienced much more of it. But by the time the doll was actually like set into what it needed to be done, the girl was already away, right? So, everything took place, but she was away, so it didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's a fair point.
it's really interesting. It's really cool. One thing I definitely can say is that I'm glad they didn't just stick with only a serial killer angle. They actually did make it like demonic and cultish, and I like that. I love when movies do that. Like some people like when, oh, it was all like a fucked up like thing they were thinking of. It was Shutter Island or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It was all in their head. I much prefer when it doesn't stay grounded and like it actually has fun with it. Because it's a movie. Like
Yeah.
it's a fictional movie, and it's really fun to see what ideas people have about like demonic possession, like the devil and everything, and people's different interpretations of what that entails. And God, the doll, like, and the fucking sphere orb, whatever the fuck that was, that catalyst for like a soul or like demonic
Yes.
possession or whatever. So cool. Such a
Yeah.
fun fucking idea.
Putting that bad evil presence into it. Yeah.
It's great. I love it. I love it.
Definitely.
This movie's really good.
Unless
No,
Thomas,
you're all good.
final thoughts? Anybody?
No, not really. I feel like we covered most
All right.
everything.
I just like to speak on. Right now, the movie was at a budget of about 10 million. Other places reporting that it was under 10 million. So just about that opening weekend, we've collected about a 22.6 million. So
Nice.
sufficient to say it's a success. I think it is critically. I think it's getting well received.
Yeah, like overall.
Essentially, I'm seeing C's. I'm also seeing high B's. I
Yep.
think this is definitely worth a watch. And if you don't like it, I mean, look, every opinion is valid. I think you're missing something about it then, because I think it's quite good. I don't think it's gonna be like not the scariest movie you've seen.
No.
I think it's definitely a good mystery to
It's
watch.
a really good like thriller, and it's
Definitely
really fun.
solid. There's also like a feeling of pure panic that encapsulates the whole movie
Yeah.
and dread and shit. And that is really, you can feel that. Like it just really holds itself to that presence. I would definitely, yeah, I'd recommend this for sure. I think with that, unless anyone's got anything else to add, we can move into our ratings.
Yeah. No.
Just final thing.
Yes, sir.
You were talking about how good the movie is and kind of that stuff, and it kind of I wanted to add one little more snippet to it. We have talked so much about, what the movie is,
Mhm.
but I think I want to stress one more time that this movie is there's so much open interpretation for things that is not fully said or not fully explained that you can draw your own conclusions to. So like, why did the doll not get shot in the head at the very end is a amazing one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of drew our own conclusion to it, but there's many different ways that, what happened and why it happened kind of thing. So even if you've listened to the podcast, you're like, oh, sounds like a cool movie, but I feel like I got most of it. I would still suggest going and watching it because there's still going to be things of, oh, I feel like this is, slightly different. I think this is a slightly different thing than what they were talking about. So
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Definitely open to interpretation.
No, and I like that a lot. I like that you can draw your own conclusions from it. There's plenty in the movie. Like I was talking about with the like world building. Like it does it in a very good way where it gives you a lot to work with to like draw your own conclusions. So it's really really great. I
Yeah,
recommend it.
100%. Agree with that. All right, let's move to our ratings. Who wants to go first? Who wants to drop the number?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I want to give it. I've been going between like two different scores, but I think like the higher score is gonna win out. It's 9 out of 10. Like I really loved this film a lot, and like I didn't think I was gonna love it this much, but the mystery's cool. I love when movies actually stick with like their cult shit and they don't just bring it up and then all of a sudden it's nothing. You know, and that can be good. Like there's stuff that does that very, very well, but this did it very well where it turned out, oh yeah, there actually is some demonic shit, and it wasn't necessarily what I thought it was going to be exactly. And I really appreciate that it gave me enough to work with to like draw a conclusion, but then also sidestep that conclusion I had a bit and did its own thing. And I just always appreciate that in a movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to agree. 9 out of 10. For all the same reasons. Um, and I think there's only a few areas like we talked about with the police officer finally getting to Longlegs and things like that, where it's like, yeah, it's a little silly for what the movie is, but does that ruin the movie?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think you really have to start nitpicking to take it away from that 10 out of 10, which is fine because
Yeah.
it's definitely not perfect.
Yes.
But it's definitely really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I was at the beginning of this podcast, I was thinking a 10 out of 10. I feel like I'm getting a little too generous with it. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like all my horror movies. Like I'm a Paranormal Activity fan. That movie still does it for me. I wouldn't say, I mean, horror doesn't necessarily have to mean terrifying, but a lot of time it's synonymous with it. And I can't say that I was ever scared about this, but I like the feelings in the movie. I like the story of the movie. I think it's great. I think I'd probably watch it again.
You leaned over to me a
100%. I'd
couple
give it-
times. You leaned over to me a couple times saying that you thought you were gonna have a panic attack.
Yes, because the feeling
Yeah,
of panic
dude.
was so surreal. That's not
It's
because I was scared.
so
It's because
good.
I
It's
was
so
so
stressful.
I was so encapsulated into the character that I could
Yeah.
feel. She was on the verge of a panic attack so often in that movie
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that you could latch
she
onto
does,
it.
she does it so
That's not a
good.
fear. You'll know when I'm scared. I
Yeah.
promise you. If we ever watch a movie that truly scares me, you'll know.
I do have one last thing to say before you give your score.
Yes.
There was one part where I jumped. And
You did.
It was the scene where so the Asian lady agent brings Harker to her house, you know, to talk with her mother.
Yes.
And, you know, Harker goes in, her mom's not there. And then it goes out. We've seen a couple of shots already. It's the same fucking shot every time of the Asian lady sitting. And, like, you know, you see her in the front seat and, you know, there's part of, like, the back window and there's nothing there. And then, like, all of a sudden it goes back to that. And, like, in the very fucking back, barely you can fucking see it in the back of the car is her mom. And,
Yeah.
like, she's also wearing, like, something that, like, blends in, too.
Yeah, she's wearing
And,
her brown like
Yeah,
nun outfit.
I didn't fucking notice it, and then when I did, I fucking jumped.
Yes.
Like,
Phoenix alerted me to the fact that she was there because he jumped, and I looked over at him. I was like, "What the fuck is he jumping for?" And I look
Yeah.
up, and I was like, "Oh."
yeah, dude.
I think at that point I said, "Holy shit,"
Yeah,
because it was like,
Yeah, no,
he
that was
just kinda
after he
walked
jumped.
out.
He jumped way before we caught on to what was happening in the
'cause
background.
I didn't fucking, because so many, like, shots of just, like, her, and that's just another fucking, like, point to, like, how good the movie does, like, just all this, like, scary little, like, details, like fucking the devil's face popping up in some stuff, the eyes of the doll, like, does such a good job of, like, those little tiny moments that, like, aren't really a super jump scare, but, like, once you notice it, it's like, oh,
Yeah, it's like,
fuck.
fuck, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
I
that's
feel
less-
that. And with that being said, I think I'm not going to give this a 10 out of 10 on like a scary horror movie, but on a general movie scale, movies that I like, it's a 10 out of 10. I
It's
quite
fair.
enjoyed it. I'll watch it again.
It's fair.
I'll actually probably buy it.
Yeah. Honestly, my rating might just go up too, because, like,
You
was
can change
so
before we lock in the
fucking
final
good.
The Midnight Critics.
I'm gonna stick with a 9 out of 10
Okay.
because there are, like, those two parts of the movie.
Once we
which-
lock it in, it's that forever,
Yeah.
and there's nothing you can ever say.
Yeah, no, it's 9 out of 10. I am totally comfortable with.
Okay.
All right,
Let me average 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yep. No decimals.